Quack, 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 quack. No!
Hell was that?
Until they copyright it, I'm telling you. Until they copyright it. Welcome in, everyone, to the Oregon Ducks Live at a different time today, but we were
Special
transitioning.
edition.
Yeah, it is, and we are transitioning to Wednesdays. Spaz, as always, how are you doing, Spaz?
Doing great. What is up with this?
It's a screen. It's green. You don't have a green screen. That's why it does that. You have to have a green screen to make it like more solid. Let's not waste any time here because I know this man is maybe the busiest man in college sports. Maybe. I'm not sure. Everyone, no introduction is needed to introduce Yogi Roth, the one and only. How are you doing today, Yogi?
I'm great. I'm definitely not the busiest man. I feel like Herb Street's way busier than I could be.
Yeah.
I can imagine having all that he is doing.
That is okay,
but
that's
two
fair.
kids under the age of 10 keeps you on your toes. But happy to make some time here and hang with you guys and talk some college football. So thanks for having me.
Hey, quick question. Did you bring Boo Boo with you in the picnic basket?
I did not. No. Sorry.
He's like,
but that's the first time I heard that.
oh, I thought he was going to be like, great. The 10th time this week already.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, you don't need an introduction, but for anyone who doesn't actually know about you or your history, do you want to give people kind of just a brief rundown of like you with sports and broadcasting, and because you do a lot of different things, obviously.
Yeah, sure. I think first and foremost, like I'm a husband and a father, and that's always going to be the most important thing in my life. But I'd say the thing that comes up really close second is that sport and ball has given my life a ton of direction. And I've always been really grateful and fortunate to have that direction as a kid growing up in Pennsylvania. I walked down at Pitt because I wanted to play big time football. Got lucky and played and got a scholarship and kind of lived that story that many college kids and athletes have lived up to this date. And then from that point on, I started coaching at USC and fell in love with Los Angeles and everything that LA had to offer from an entertainment perspective. And instead of continually coaching and moving up to Seattle and doing kind of the thing that coaches do, which is bounce around and have a blast doing that, I decided I want to stay in LA and get into storytelling and really college football broadcasting. So I think this is year 16 or 17 calling games. Been in the Big 12, obviously in the Pac-12 for a really long time, and now just joined the Big 10 network. So that, but I've always had an itch to be entrepreneurial. So I launched my own media company this year. And our first offering is called Y Option. It's a new podcast that has just been a blast. It's all about college football through the lens of the West Coast. So check it out. We've had a bunch of real fun guests like Dylan Raiola. We just had Trent Bray on, and Jake Dickert just dropped earlier today. So we're just trying to, support this community on the West Coast that I think really loves football, that is probably searching somewhat for home base. And I've always felt like I could hopefully bring thoughtful dialogue to the sport that I love so much and that so many people love, and try to do that every Saturday on air. Heading to Nebraska tomorrow morning and the sun comes up for my first time in Lincoln calling a game. And then during the week, try to do it on Y Option.
Nice.
That was something we talked about.
You decide to flip into the Y Option?
Yeah, it's a really cool question, Spaz. The biggest thing for us last year was we kind of got like senior year in high school, if you remember that. Ashley Adamson, my colleague, who I'd recommend you guys should have on at some point. She's amazing. She would tell us that all year. And it was kind of like you knew the end was coming with our time at the Pac-12 networks, but you got to have this like swan song of sorts. It wasn't anybody's fault who was producing games or directing games or broadcasting games that the league was going in the direction that it had gone in that August 4th, I guess. So as I went to different campuses, I kept asking athletic directors and coaches and families and players, like, how are you going to tell your stories? Where are you going to tell them? There's no network in the Big 12. The ACC is a long ways away from Cal and Stanford. The Big 10 has a lot of really talented teams. And I've spent my whole, really better part of the last 20 years in the Pac-10 or Pac-12. Why do I want to just not talk about 8 teams? Or why do I want to not communicate and connect to these fan bases that I've spent so much time, hopefully cultivating a positive relationship with, calling games over the course of the entirety of the Pac-12 conference? And that's when it hit me. Like, yeah, let's create that. These fans are looking for an option. I'm looking for an option in my own career. I get to figure out where I was going to land next. Y option is like the most foundational West Coast offense play. So I said, yeah, let's call it that. My name's Yogi. It kind of makes sense. And we really just set out a thoughtful goal, myself and Jim Thornby, who's the co-founder of it, who worked at the Pac-12 for a really long time. We said, we want to have thoughtful conversation and dialogue in sport. And I'm sick and tired of hearing people scream. I've never been that guy. I think it's important to pause versus having an immediate knee-jerk reaction. And I think there's a dramatic amount of fans that feel the same way, or sports fans or listeners to content on the internet. And that's where we found our community. And it's been really fun doing it. We're about 2 months in, a little over 2 months now. And you're going for it, which is cool. And we got great partners. So we've got great support throughout it. But I'm motivated, man. I'm really excited to do it and keep unearthing stories around the game that I love and the humanity within it.
That's so cool. Cause like me, I grew up, I've been up here in the Northwest my entire life, over 50 years. And all I've ever known was Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12. And now it's like, it's all gone. And it's like, it's still, still sinking in. We haven't even technically played our first Big Ten game yet. And it's still sinking in. Like, is this really happening?
Yeah, no, it is happening. It's happened,
Yeah, it's done.
You know that, and I think there is a part of it that has been hard on fans. I mean, think of the week that we're in with the rivalry game in the Apple Cup, and then Oregon State. It doesn't get played in September, but it is now. So I'm just decided, after really the end of the season, I gave myself a couple weeks, and when I figured out where I was going to go next, I just tried to make a conscious decision, and I'd recommend that to you or to anyone else of like, okay, things are moving in a different direction than they have been in over 100 years. We don't have to like it, but it is reality. So let's be entertained by it. And that's the choice I've made. Like when I look at realignment now, like I used to be the guy tracking every media rights conversation, what's going to happen, because I'd get asked. I'd go on shows like this and people would expect me to know media rights. And I knew them barely. Like I know defensive schemes. I know offensive football. Like I know the game and I know the stories within the game. So I've chosen to retire as a media rights fake expert and go hard and back hard into football and the humanity and the stories within it, and just try to be entertained by it. So when I see a new story or a new rumor, I'll glance at it, I'll check it out to just know the pulse, but I don't want to get caught up in that again, because that wasn't fun for anybody. I mean, there's still 200 people that don't have a job based on the Pac-12 networks not existing, and by no fault of their own.
That was something we talked about during the offseason, like being spaz, especially we were wondering, and somebody would ask you, is like, we thought, okay, Pac-12 network obviously is not going to exist. Will the Big Ten network kind of pick up some of that package? How did that kind of transition work with the Big Ten? Did they do any of that, or did you just get picked up by the Big Ten network? Kind of how did that transition go?
Yeah, I think it's probably different for everybody. Like I knew that I was going to be a free agent. So, I'm lucky. I've got a great support system around me, starting with my wife and also, my representation. So we just started setting meetings. You start meeting people, you know them over the course of your time. Like you've been in the industry probably over a decade, or once you hit 15 years, like you feel like you kind of know everybody, or at least are connected a degree or two away. So I just started making, meetings, meetings started getting set, started meeting different people at different places. And really from the very beginning, when I met with the folks at the Big Ten Network, it felt like a really exciting place to be. When you look at games on national television and the viewership numbers, there's Fox and ESPN, and right behind them oftentimes is the Big Ten Network. Like a dramatic amount of people have access to it. I know some maybe, might be a sore spot or sore subject, in the Northwest right now with Xfinity, et cetera. But ultimately, like it's accessible in a really, in a way that's, I think extremely easy. So I think once I, got to meet the executives, got to meet the people that I'd be working with, the producers, it was kind of a no-brainer. And I'm really lucky that they also offered me the opportunity. I was also looking for a job, and I think they probably saw the value that I brought from the West Coast. But also I see the value in which that league is. It's separated, man. Like it is separated. Though them and the SEC are just different than everybody else. And I think the Big Ten is different than the SEC in terms of how it spans the country. And the SEC is landlocked as of today. Like, I don't know if expansion's happening, where it's happening. In the Big Ten, it's really cool when you look at the map and you see all the regions. It does feel a little bit like
all the way
National
across.
Football League. Yeah, it feels a little like the NFL. So I want to be a part of that. And I'm really proud to be a part of that. And that's why I also created Y Option, because I wanted to stay connected to Cal when they put it on Auburn. I want to stay connected to Wazoo when they put it on Texas Tech. I wanted to stay connected to Arizona when they put it on Mississippi State. Like, West Coast football is, you could argue the last, 13 months, it's the best it's been in 13 years.
That's what we said last year. It was like shocking.
And we're still getting ignored.
Yeah, shocking. The best season probably the Pac-12 has had in quite a while was the final year. Like just shocking.
My opinion, Pac-12 was the conference of the year last year, hands down.
Yeah, you could argue that, if it was still one, it'd be that this year. When you look at the wins, 3 wins over teams in the SEC. Granted, all those 3 wins are one's in the Big Ten, one's in the ACC, one's in the Big 12. So I always again, I go back to I'm going to be entertained. I'm not going back to the frustration mode of I hope that Utah, let's just take a team from the Big 12. Utah plays Arizona or Arizona State in the Big 12 title game, and they end up playing Oregon or SC in the first round of the playoffs or the second round of the playoffs. It'd be awesome. Be entertained by it. None of us and none of the people in those rooms, those coaching staffs or those players had any impact on the future of their teams. So I want to not be salty around the sport that I love. And I think it's really easy to become that, right? It's easy to be a pessimist, and I'm going to compete to hopefully never be that.
I want to touch upon this just because one of our great guys here, Jackson, dropped a little chat here for you, Yogi. What do you think will happen to Oregon State rivalry in the Apple Cup? The Oregon State rivalry in the Apple Cup.
Well, I think it's just I don't think it's gonna stop. I applaud the 4 schools to make it happen. I know that some fan bases may or may not be thrilled with it, the time of the year where the game is played, etc. And I understand those frustrations, but I got asked this morning. Somebody from Pittsburgh at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, they said, better rivalry, West Virginia Pitt or Penn State Pitt? And I'm like, they're all awesome. Rivalries are what make college football. Regional rivalries are what I think got us all to fall in love with, whether it's Michigan, Ohio State, Pitt, Penn State, Florida State. I mean, you can go all across the country, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Cal, Stanford, et cetera, et cetera. So these are awesome. I think calmer heads will continue to prevail around that. I think the game times, the locations, when in the calendar year of a season they exist, that's probably up for discussion, especially around the scheduling models and Washington State and Oregon State being in the situation they're in right now, keeping the Pac-12 brand together and, hopefully rebuilding that thing. I hope they do, because I think there's a home for a West Coast conference, but that needs to include these 2 games. And, knowing Jed Fish and Dan Lanning, they agree with that too. They all want to see this game go on. I think everybody who's involved in sport knows how powerful rivalries are, and especially in the same state, what they do to the economy in both communities. And that's not lost on anybody involved. So to Jackson's question, I think they're going to continue on. I think that they'll take a little bit of a different shape, but I hopefully will be calling a couple of those. My only request next year is that whoever's making these schedules do not allow them to be played at the same time. That to me is just crazy. Why are we putting these 2 teams on at the same time ever, let alone on rivalry weekend on national television?
Yeah, usually one's in the day, one's in the evening.
Yeah, or one's on a Friday, one's on a Saturday. That was back in the day, but in this new world, there's one request, just to the powers that be, just have them be back to back. It'll be great.
And at least, like you said, at least it's happening, because for a while there, we thought there might be a couple years break from it until they could figure out that scheduling. And bless Texas Tech for moving their home game with us to go to Washington State instead, so that we could fill this spot with Oregon. So there was some shuffling there, but they got it done very quickly, and there's no break in the rivalries.
So was there ever a time when you were trying to, negotiate from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten and not knowing where you were going to be? Was there a time that you ever had that thought of maybe, well, if I go, I want my team to go, like Ashley and the rest of you guys? Was there ever a thought of, well, if we all can't be included, we're a team. We were a team for so long. I'm going to go do something else if we can't all be together.
Yeah, of course. I think the number one thing that I took away from the Pac-12 network was the people. Ted Robinson changed my life in ways that no one has. He taught me how to be a broadcaster. And my three partners up to today. Today, my partner is Guy Haberman, who's one of my dearest friends. My first partner was Steve Fiziak, who you remember calling Pac-10 games back in the day on Fox and FS1. My next partner was Kevin Calabro, who's a Hall of Fame broadcaster, who was the Sonics, voice of the Sonics, now the voice of the Blazers. Yeah, and then Ted, who's already in the Hall of Fame for broadcasting. Like, how lucky was I? Starting at 26 years old, I got those three guys. Every weekend, I was just with those three, other than maybe 2 games, right? 4 games, whatever it might have been. And when they weren't there, it was Guy Haberman, it was JB Long, it was just rock stars in the profession. It was just really special people in my life. And yeah, of course, you'd want to go with everybody and ride with everybody. Ashley, I felt the same way with Mike Yam, Ted Robinson, of course, even the people behind the scenes, the production crews, 1000%. Reality is in this business, like, it's not like high school recruiting, where you can kind of say, hey, take my brother too. Like, it's just not, that's just sadly, unless you're Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, I've never seen that. I do think, though, that everybody I've worked with is so highly regarded and respected that they were deciding their own offers as I was trying to, mold my own. And we had great communication throughout the whole thing. And everybody's been an absolute pro. Some people are now working at NBC. Some people are now working at the CW. Some people went to Fox. Like, the good thing is, as I started off, like, it was about the people. And I still talk to Ted every week. I still talk to our producer twice a week. And I also talk to a new partner, Guy Haberman, 5 times a week, and a new producer 5 times a week, and Denny Blunt. Like, so that's just kind of the nature of the profession. I think what I learned was that my experience was one that is very uncommon. If you turn on an ESPN game, very rarely for multiple seasons do you see the same crew together. And I think, Guy and I talk about that a lot, because I think if you turned on a game, you could disagree or agree with me. I'd love your feedback. And then you can tell who really likes each other in the booth or on set. And Ashley and myself and Ted and I, if you listen to the opener against Idaho, Guy and I, like, I hope you turn on and be like, that cuts through a little bit. Like, these guys love texting about their families and football. And that's the relationship off the mics. And I don't know. What do you think? Can you feel that through the airwaves?
100% difference in week 1 and week 2. Sorry, you guys, you and Guy were great the first week. It was fun to watch it and listen to the game, listen to you guys call the game and the stories. And I turned on Peacock last week, and
Oh yeah, no,
not
sorry.
so much.
The Peacock announcers last week were that was, I don't know what was going on with a lot of the announcers I watched last week. They were like making calls on the field, like for the refs almost from the booth, and I was like, they had to correct themselves, and I was like, what is happening right now? It felt like there was a weird delay also for some reason in the calls. I don't know if that was a media issue. I don't know. It was kind of weird.
Gosh, yeah, when I watch games back usually watch them back Monday morning, I get up pretty early, and I just never watch them with the broadcast on. Like that, I get a copy of it. It's kind of like the quote unquote coach's copy. So it's the end zone, the sideline. I have my little clicker here, and I'm just like clicking through all the games to my right. So I haven't heard it. But yeah, a lot of good people in the industry, and there's always so many dynamics within a broadcast. Like, I've been on that end of a broadcast too, that sometimes there's technical challenges, and everybody, I know this, everybody who does it, I haven't met a broadcaster who's not trying to kill it, and that's just kind of how it goes sometimes.
Oh yeah, there's a different chemistry between certain people, or the time they have together, and they build that chemistry. Like that's just normal. Were you off screen during the Idaho game, like off air, to him going, I don't know what is happening on the field right now, because that game was not a good game.
Yeah, I wasn't. Like, I think it was a great game. Like, I hear you from your fan base perspective of like, what's going on? Like, it was a really cool game because, and our job as a broadcaster is to do what? Is to celebrate the game and coach the viewer. And I believe my job is to really be connected to the present moment. So I'm not saying much off air that I wouldn't say on air. I try to be that way in general. And again, I go back to like thoughtful dialogue. So, okay, why are they struggling? Okay, give an answer versus frustration. You know, like what answers are they going to have? What answers does Idaho have? And then that's I think it's probably like my philosophy when it comes to broadcasting. But calling it, I've called upsets before. I never for a second felt like Oregon was going to lose. You know, even when it was a 1-score game, I was never like, uh-oh. You know, I was like, okay, it's even more fun. I've been on some other ones where I'm saying,
and that was the thing. You
I don't know.
feel your energy.
Yeah.
I could, as a watcher, I could feel your energy going, okay, we got a 3-point game in the fourth quarter here. All right.
I was going to say, if you want to feel negativity, I should just add Yogi to our group text chat, because these guys, I can't look at it during the game because it is like, I look down, there's like 50 messages, mostly from Spaz over here, just ranting about something. That was me at Texas Tech last year, at Texas Tech, watching the game.
Yeah, that was a wild one.
And they were just blowing up my phone, and I'm like, stop it. I'm at the game. I know what's happening. I'm like, I'm here dealing with this. Yeah, I won't do that. Yogi would block all of us immediately and change his phone number.
You played in rivalry games.
Yep.
You coached in rivalry games, and now you've broadcast in rivalry games. What are your thoughts and feelings in the 3 different directions that you've been involved in rivalry games? What is that like?
Yeah, it's a cool question, and I'll try to keep it succinct. I think as a player, you can get caught up in the emotion, and it's fun, and you should, right? I'm calling Nebraska, Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa is going to walk in front of 85,000 and change and be like, what? But you got to be lit up by it. You got to enjoy it. I think it's important to be switched on. Same thing in a rivalry game. You're going to feel it. A coach, your job is to not feel it, but motivate and inspire and connect. Why? Because you can't coach emotionally. And as a broadcaster, your job is to pull the essence into the game and serve 2 fan bases, right? That hate one another or have distaste for one another, and will have distaste for you if you hype up the other team or if you love on the opponent. And that's okay. Like that, like to me, I go back to like, this is my call sheet from the Oregon game to start the season. And at the bottom of it, it says celebrate the game and coach the viewer. I go back, that's the core foundation of my broadcast. So how great is it that these fan bases have shown up in Corvallis for an afternoon game of 2 teams that have an epic history with one another? Last time Dan Lanning was here, they couldn't stop the run late in the game. Okay, that's going to frustrate every Oregon fan. The last time the Beavs went down to Corvallis, they couldn't get it done, and moments later, Jonathan Smith exited, and now he's in East Lansing. Like, that's going to frustrate another fan. Like, but you can't worry about it. You just got to call the game. You know, I've had so many times where people had said very rude things to me, and I say, man, like, you don't even know me. And they're like, yeah, my bad, man. I was just caught up in the game. I'm like, okay, that's not okay, but okay, I guess. But it's just part of it. And I think you grow. I've called this game before when Jake Luton was a late scratch. You remember that game with Justin Herbert? I've been to a bunch of these on both sides of the rivalry, whether it's the Apple Cup or this one. And they're beautiful, man. They're memorable games. And I think when you get in the booth, you're like, it's an honor to be here. That's probably where I net out. Like, how lucky are we? Like, I don't know what happened in some universe to put me in this booth for this game. So.
And it is a rivalries are always special. I mean, that is one of the great things about college football. And I think with Oregon fans, it's always weird too. And maybe it's the same. I know USC, UCLA, but USC, I think, feels Notre Dame maybe is more of their rival than anything. Because it's like Oregon State, but Oregon, Washington. Right. There's a fine line. But I guess it's the in-state rivalry part.
Yeah, that's a good comp. That's a good comp. And I got to jump here in a minute. But I remember I learned it at SC when I was on the staff. We all thought that Notre Dame was the bigger rivalry. And what we learned was that it is to the alums. But the players who grew up with guys right around the corner, their rival was UCLA. Like, that was a different energy. I think for Oregon State, I'd say for Oregon and Washington, or Oregon versus Oregon State, and of course UW versus Wazoo, I think there's even a greater dynamic there because it's in state, right? It wasn't like it was SC UCLA and SC Cal, so I think that they're just their own beast. They just are, and I think penning the stakes probably determines, the outcome or the storyline from the game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very insightful commentary right there. You are a professional, Yogi.
There we go. Well, this is my last professional thing before I got on a plane. So thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, yeah, and if you could pass Ashley's information, our information on to Ashley, we'd love to have her on.
Sure.
Ted,
yeah, send her a DM, man. She'd love to. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.
No,
Thanks,
thank you,
Yogi.
Yogi.
All right.
Enjoy the game.
I will. You too.
Yogi Roth, everyone. As he gets off here, there we go. He's getting it. I could just pull him down. I should probably do that. I should probably just pull him down. I forget I'm in control of this thing sometimes. I forget I'm in control of the stream. Yeah, that was insightful.
Yeah, that was good.
I didn't know if I was ready for that type of just thoughtful insights there. But yeah, Yogi's obviously quite busy. As he said, he's about to go travel for his game. So
yeah, about to head to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Busy.
At least September, not December. I'm sure he'll get a December.
It can be hot. It can be pretty. It can be pretty hot over there, though. And Jackson, I do want to thank you for that super chat there. I believe we do have Nick coming up soon. He was running a little late today, unfortunately, but that's okay. We're here for it.
It'll be perfect because with Yogi gone now or whatever, we can have Nick come up and we can talk a little bit of rivalry, his experience, and then we could go into previewing this week.
Yeah, exactly.
His thoughts on what he saw, promote his podcast that he's got as well.
Spaz, will you be quiet? Will you be quiet so I can introduce? Maybe the greatest Oregon O lineman of all time. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm making up stuff, but he was pretty good. He was pretty good. Nick Cody.
I'm looking around here. I don't see any other offensive line. Just about everybody I played with, probably ahead of me on that ranking. But thanks, guys. How you doing?
Doing good. How's it going, Nicker?
Just missed.
Pretty good, man.
Yeah, you just missed Yogi, but he's off to Nebraska, you know?
Yeah. I got to catch it a little bit while I was stuck in the typical Seattle public transit issues. So sorry for being late, but probably worked out for the best because no reason for me to interrupt the brilliance of Yogi.
Yeah, and then we can have you come on and we can discuss the game and your experiences and give a little preview.
Yeah, we can get down to the dirty Beaver stuff, huh?
I almost was going to call it Beaver Week, but I didn't feel like Mark would have liked that title.
Yeah, it's a weird, especially the kind of whatever the stipulation or the stigma is around certain people not wanting to call it the Civil War anymore. It's depressing and discouraging. We got to bring it back, or we just got to officially make it the Platypus Cup. One of the two, you guys. Come on.
I'm for that. That's why for like 3 or 4 years, people kept trying to just call it the in-state rivalry or something like that. And I was like, no. And then the announcers even started calling the Civil War again. I was like, there you go. Even they got kind of like, no, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and if you're too offended by Civil War, you shouldn't be too embarrassed to say Platty. So that's at least the way I do the math.
Platypus Trophy, one of the
that is the ugliest. What we play for every year.
We brought it back. I believe sometime during my era, somebody found it in an old storage locker somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, because we talked about it at the spring game. Yeah.
Yeah, it just disappeared for quite a while.
Especially like in terms of importance at Oregon, it's Natty and then it's Platty right there, man. It's gotta be.
So, and that's one thing too for you, especially as a former, actual player. Who did you hate more, Washington or Oregon State?
Oh,
you can be real.
Spring
game. Yeah, this one's tough for me because I'm a lifelong Washingtonian. I live up here now. Anytime I wasn't living down in Eugene. I've been living in the state of Washington, so I've always had it in my era. Always had it a lot tougher from Husky fans than Oregon State fans. It's only been within the last couple of years that I've really had to reflect more on the Husky rivalry, and that's amped up, and I've had to deal with them a whole lot more. But I mean, back in the day, Oregon State, the rivalry was definitely felt in a more friendly way by the fans, but the players, I mean, that team played a lot harder than UW played against us back in the day. UW would fold pretty easily, and it didn't feel like, there was that kind of, rivalry stigma. It wasn't like we were hyping it all week. And back in the chip days, it was faceless opponents. So there was a very minimum amount of things that they would allow us to do for rivalry weeks. But the things that, like, I wouldn't be shaking hands with Oregon State players too often after a game, because it would be, well, we were celebrating going to a Rose Bowl or Natty half those times, but or taking a Rose Bowl away from them. But yeah, I remember at the last game I played in Husky Stadium, a couple of the recruits that were in my class, I went to go shake their hand because, I'd redshirted and they were, graduating. So it'd be the last time we played, and I just shook their hand and told them, like, hey, tried to tell you guys you should have come to Oregon, huh? And I wouldn't do that to any Beavers because, well, number one, I wouldn't have wanted any of them to come to Oregon.
Ouch.
I know. Somebody's got to do it, man. Nobody's good at talking trash anymore, it feels like. We're letting all the media people do it.
Well, that's a fair point too. Like you said, at least the Beaver teams then were at least put up a fight. That was during the Oregon dominance.
And there were stakes. There were big stakes to those games, man. Like, you knew, even if, one team's season didn't go the way it was supposed to, you were trying to play spoiler to the other team's season. I know my redshirt year, that was the 2008 year that was so much fun because it was like, oh, Oregon State set for a Rose Bowl appearance. Everybody thinks this is the year. Go Beavs, go. And then, I still remember. And last time I saw Jeremiah Johnson at the spring game, I tell him this every time. I still hear that girl screaming, going, no, as he's running for like 80 yards on the touchdown. I don't know if it's tinnitus from football or concerts or if she's just really stuck in there, but I still remember hearing it. Whenever the replay comes up, my ears start ringing again, and it's like, oh, it's back. Oh, it's back. It's never going to stop again.
It's both. It's probably both, but tinnitus and that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are those moments, though, like you say, you can't forget, especially you as a player. What is that like one of your favorite moments, perhaps, or maybe what's your favorite? Ooh. If you can think of one and not on the spot, you can name a couple. That's a hard decision, probably.
I have a ton, but like my top three are easily War for the Roses and the Autzen Stadium, and I got a good picture with Drew Davis at the end. We both got the roses, the throwbacks on, and then my favorite thing about that night was my mom went over pretty much by where the band is sitting at the lowest part that she could get to, and she decided that she was storming the field with everybody else. And my mom's had 3 knee replacements. I'm telling you, this woman did not hesitate near as much as I did. Like, no, hold on. This might not be the greatest idea. But she stormed the field for that one, man, and that was a real special moment to me. Number 2, it's probably got to be at Oregon State Field again, getting to be on the field when we take the knee and we know we're going to the national championship game, right? That's whew, what a moment. And then, you obviously don't hear the call on the field, but anytime I watch it back and you start hearing Jerry Allen start to break down and we're going to the national championship, and, I can't help but just kind of be right there with him and remember that moment. So it's cool. I think to be out there, wherever, one of the tackle spots, wherever I was at, even though that was probably the only significant reps I got in the game that weren't on field goal or something. But that year it was cool. And then number 1 overall for me, getting that monkey off our backs, winning a big BCS bowl game in the Rose Bowl as a starter. And at the very end of the game, confetti's going down. I slapped the helmet of a couple teammates. I had gotten to dunk Chip a little bit with the water, but I wasn't very good. He was good at getting away from me. And we had that long pause while we're waiting to decide. All right, did Russell Wilson spike it? Did he get it down? Do we have more time or not? So I'm just sitting there with the Gatorade and my dick in my hands, like, oh no, you go really bad. if they score right now, and I gotta put this Gatorade down. But no, we did. I dumped the Gatorade bottle on him, and I don't remember if it was specifically that Gatorade tub or not. I'd like to picture book if we're making the movie version of it. It'd be that same one. I took it over to the corner where my family was sitting because they were kind of higher up in that Oregon corner there. And I stood up on that just to be able to get a hug with my family. And as the confetti's coming down, we finally won the big one for us. And my former roommate, Lavaje Tuane, is the Rose Bowl MVP, coming and being the first guy he roomed with at Oregon, and just one of my best friends on the team. So that day was really special. And to top that, man, it would have taken a lot. It just didn't happen. Pretty close my senior year, though. I think we take care of business against Stanford. That's maybe a different answer.
Yeah, that was a Stanford. Stanford.
Fucking Mario.
Yeah. Stanford.
Oh no, that was still Chip, wasn't it?
Well, that was Chip my senior year. God, no, if I played for Mario, man, I would never got any starts. he had more physical offensive linemen coming in than me, man. Some kid from Brush Prairie, I would have been lucky to be a walk-on for this team, man. But still, I mean, as a walk-on, I probably would have got paid more.
It's true,
yeah, right.
I'm saying, I mean, nowadays, I'm saying now in NIL, man. I mean, that's totally cool to say. I mean, I'm sure we're getting enough to pay the bills, but you know, those stipends weren't much, man. Looking back now, I'm like, oh man, NIL would have been nice. NIL would have been really nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For real. What do you
if I had NIL, if I had NIL, I wouldn't be doing my podcast in a corner door. So
right. And you wouldn't be at the what is it, Pub Street Theater or whatever, doing your shows. You'd be at Safeco.
Well, you know, I don't know if it's going to make my comedy any better. Jeez, I just might have to buy my own crappy bar and set up there. But yeah, the Shanghai Room or Just Chill Pub, or no, Peace of Mind Brewing. Trying to get a show set up at Just Chill Pub and Grill up here. But yeah, hey, if there were as many spots in Eugene, I'd consider way more living down there. But every time I'm looking, I'm like, oh yeah, there's the Olson Club that just opened, and then couple open mics and not a whole lot. Unless I, you know, not big on what's up.
Obar doesn't do anything really.
I mean, not that I know of. You know, unless Polar Bear is going to be setting that up. You know, he could do an hour every weekend. I think
Polar Bear would have that done or locks by now.
And maybe that would be cool, but just you know. It's different, man. I can at least here in Linwood, I can get you know, our last tapped out comedy show just got about 54 tickets sold. So, you know, it's cool. You're able to pay, you know, like 8 other comics, and you know, at least for me, you know, take care of the poster and promotion money I'm paying and cover that. So, and the venue's always happy when you get that many people. So it's been a process, and it's like I'm glad it hasn't gone like. Yeah, not going to be doing arenas or stadiums anytime soon. I got to keep getting better, keep working at my craft, and the grind's great though. Especially, I think the nights you get better are kind of the ones that are the hardest.
Yeah, exactly. When are you coming down for the next game again?
Oh man, that's a great question. I would love to get down for the Michigan State game, since I have Fridays and Saturdays off from work, but that still haven't determined that. I know right now the homecoming game that the alumni get tickets to is the Illinois game. That's 27th, 28th.
Yeah,
towards the end of October. But I definitely
what a random game.
Well, and then homecoming's always, usually after a road trip. So that's coming, after Purdue. I get it. It's always been not like a disappointment of a game, but I'll still remember like 2017 seeing it was Wazoo and being like, oh man, I don't want to see Mike Leach on a homecoming game. No.
Right?
Especially when we got to it and Herbert was out. And anyways, not going to relive that right now. But yeah, the the Illinois weekend, I definitely want to be back for, especially with Kenyon getting inducted in the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. That'll be really cool. So if I showed up, that weekend, I'd love to go to that too. So just thinking ahead, and then obviously, really, really hoping to get down for the Washington game. I'll be moving that weekend, but I'll also hopefully be getting that out of the way a little bit early if possible. So hoping to get down November 30th for the game I certainly always have circled now as much as I hear from the Huskies.
Yeah. Yeah, especially after last year.
Yeah. I mean, win or lose, man, I'm going to hear it from them. That's for sure. They love me.
Oh.
Yeah, hopefully
they love us here too.
Michigan State game, because I'll be at the Michigan State game. I got a hotel for the night and everything. I'm planning the whole weekend.
I'm looking forward to I can't say too much, but I'm looking forward to the uniforms that night too, for sure.
Oh.
Yeah, first Big Ten game in Autzen. We're celebrating my oldest 35th birthday that day, so
nice.
It's hotel rooms. We're Ubering from Springfield over. Probably gonna end up tearing Ruben's walls down after the game.
Definitely hit up Ranchito Grill there in Springfield, the best Mexican food in Oregon.
Oh yeah, Spaz is working on that sponsorship hard. He's been trying for.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he's already.
Oh yeah, I am personally endorsed. So yeah, that's why I'm not sure if he has it up yet, but I know Ruben's been planning to get one of my jerseys up there. So he's got it. It's on him, but I know they've been trying to find like the right frame and where to put it up. I'm still waiting.
Have you been to any of LaMichael's Killer Burgers around here?
I've been to the first one he opened. I was picking up. I went and supported sometime when I was visiting down there during COVID, visiting family and stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, because he's got all the walls lined with his jerseys from
high
school
to Miami. I think I've been to the Eugene one just once, but yeah, I went to the first one next to the Nike campus.
Yeah.
First, and then been to the Eugene one. Probably just one time, but
does he literally have like all like 40 combinations of uniforms that he's worn?
No, not out there. No.
He's got like 3 Oregon jerseys, a Frisco, and a Miami jersey, and maybe a high school jersey up.
I love some of the murals though. They give me a good, somebody that like knows those people. You get a good laugh. You're like, yep. I'm glad I recognize who it is, but it took me a minute.
Oh, that's hilarious. You guys were teammates,
right? Yeah. Same recruiting class.
Nice.
LaMichael, Kenyon, technically LeGarrette and Mazzoli were part of the 2008 class too. So one of the best recruiting classes in Oregon history for sure.
Yeah, it's too bad they couldn't have got LeGarrette last week to be the team captain. We were all on
yeah.
When you guys said that, I was like, oh, I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either. I don't know.
No offense to LeGarrette Bond, but I don't know.
I rarely use this, but no comment.
We only won by 3 Spaz. Can you imagine if LeGarrette had been there? How pissed Boise State might have been. Even though they have nothing to do with any of that scenario, but still, that would have probably riled it up.
I think maybe that would have fired the team up even more as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we need any more distractions, man. I think, and in fact, like that is kind of like the one thing I do have concerns about because there's moments of celebration that are just a bit selfish. I think I've heard some other, I don't know, I've heard some analysts call it out a little bit that just this Oregon team kind of, especially, like instances of it may be oversight more than it is selfishness. But like, for example, Noah crossing the goal line and dropping the ball right before it's like, oh man, that's tough. That means you really got to focus and just have these kind of things in the back of your mind where you're not already thinking about what you're going to do and celebrate. Like that should just come naturally with your teammates. The goal is get that ball across the line securely, and there's just little things like that when guys, get a sack or have an individual play. How they react tells me a lot about the culture of the team, and that is something I, assume is probably getting coached up by our guys there. But it's tough when you do have so many transfers, so many new people to your culture. I think it's always Chip always said, "Go celebrate with your teammates." He made it really simple. Like, why are you making it about you? You know, if a wide receiver had a great play, scored a touchdown, like, go find a lineman who blocked, who gave you that protection. Go find your quarterback who delivered you that ball. Go find that other wide receiver that kept the coverage distracted because they ran such a damn crisp, clean route that they were worried about them. Take care of your tight end who had to go up there, shed some tough linebacker play on the line of scrimmage, and just work the way down the field so that safety had to help. All those kinds of things come into the play, and like when you really believe in that, and it's a part of your nature, that's what you saw the my favorite celebrations you've seen in Oregon history are when the whole team's going to the end zone to celebrate because that's demoralizing to the other team. You see one guy do a dance, some Chad Ochocinco shit. Sure, like, okay, cool, but you're kind of thinking in the back of your head, like, this goofball must have thought a lot of time in practice about this. But when you just see a whole team just kind of mob each other, there's no, you're just like, shit, man, we are in it today. They are coming, they're bringing it. And that's what I want to see from our offense. A couple more big plays where it's not about the individual, it's about everybody that just busted ass to get that play, whether it's a 70-yard play or if it's right there on the goal line. That should be your attitude is, dude, we just all got it in here. Let's all celebrate, congratulate the person that got the touchdown, put the points on the board, and realize we're all responsible and all should celebrate.
I am glad that the team stopped doing it. I'm glad the team stopped doing it as much because there's several times I've in Oregon history have watched it do it, of course, where someone gets a touchdown, they'll like I fall down and the team dog piles on him. I'm like, you're the poor guy. I mean, that is like, 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of just bodies on top of the poor guy. Like
we're usually at least if the O line there get there early, we're usually holding them up pretty well. You'd be surprised. Usually we're doing a lot of that of the brunt of it to ourselves. But yeah, the classic was always lifting the guy up and getting everybody there to help. That was always the best. But yeah, always just I still always hear Chip when those plays happen. It's like celebrate with your teammates. I'm like, oh shit.
I think it was your guys' team. I believe it was the Rose Bowl game against Wisconsin at the end when you guys finally put that away. Wasn't it you guys, your whole team, I believe, in that corner where all the Oregon fans were at the end afterwards, at the end of the game? You guys were all over there corner, I believe, celebrating with the fans. Was that you got your team?
I mean, most of them, I'm sure it was. I mean, I know I was, but yeah, those moments, it's like, yeah, a lot of people, especially a lot of families are over there. But yeah, I think more that one we were more excited and scattered all over the place, and people were shaking hands. That I'm not, the Oregon State game before we went to the Natty, though, that was definitely where we all went down to that one corner. And still remember people like the photo in the paper the next day. It was people lifting wide receiver Justin Hoffman up and carrying him for whatever reason, kind of giving him that Rudy moment. And yeah, just real cool because it was just, something that no other team had done until Marcus went and did it the second time in the first playoff era. So, yeah.
And
yes. Yeah, Dyer's knee was down, correct?
I mean,
stop it.
Hey, man. I certainly thought so, but at the end of the day, the kick was made, and then still remember the first guy running across there that I saw that I was like rolling my eyes at was like when the punter's running on the field. Oh man, yeah, it better be a national championship. What the hell? Remember seeing the punter run across the field first? God damn it, we really lost, huh? Yeah, that was a rough
Kickers
one.
are people too.
The experience had to be just the experience, though. Just playing in the Natty had to be feel like an accomplishment.
Yeah, it definitely did. Everything in hindsight, it's a Hall of Fame team and inducted to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame, and that means a lot to me. But at the end of the day, just not getting it done still, it does just churn your gut. And until the Ducks do get one, it's always going to kind of bother me that we had our shots and just the little things that you think you go back and wish you could have contributed or done more, and at the end of the day it just didn't happen. So that's always going to linger with me until the Ducks take care of this shit. And I think the new playoff era probably gives a greater opportunity than we used to have for that, because you had to be friggin' perfect to get there, and that's tough to do.
Yeah, and now we have that opportunity. Even with these, with this season, with the first couple of games not being as great as we're used to seeing from Oregon teams in preseason. I mean, what do you think is it? What do you think's the issues? Is it just minor? Is it just little things? It's what it
Well,
looks like to me.
It's a very
number
question,
one,
Spaz. That's what I was going to ask. Is like, what do you see with this team where
yeah,
something's missing? And I personally, I think it is one. I mean, of course, you can say O line has some issues, communication.
yeah,
I think you realize also, Bo Nix did a lot,
yeah,
in the sense of play
definitely
call, but also Jackson Power Johnson being gone is a huge loss.
huge.
Obviously,
Yeah, there's a whole lot to that, but I think the big misnomer is that definitely the expectations were there that we should come out and probably manhandle Idaho, and then I think everybody that's been a long time Oregon fan understands Boise State wasn't going to be a cakewalk, and especially when they were predicted to be a playoff seed potentially. So I think it's a big misnomer to think like, oh yeah, Oregon's not used to coming out. Well, we've struggled early on in seasons. I still remember, especially the Boise State game, Chip's very first game, my first road game as a travel roster player and on the 2D, and did not start out great. In fact, did not keep going. The Purdue game was a struggle. Utah game was a struggle. There was still that feeling until we had well, in fact, at the kickoff of Cal, Walter Thurman the third takes the kickoff back, ends up fumbling, having a season-ending knee injury, and then we hold Cal to a field goal there, and that ends up being their last points of the day as we put 43 some on them. So there was just always a moment in the season where you felt like everything clicked, and sometimes it was right away. We were really lucky. The 2010 and 2012 seasons to really start off on a huge note, but I mean, 2000, people forget 2009, 2011 started off with Boise State and LSU. And those losses, both, you heard the same thing like the offense looks lost. This isn't what we expected from Oregon. You didn't, we had a little bit, I think, more issue with kind of turnovers in that situation. But I mean, I don't think that the huge hot start is necessarily indicative of a great team. It means you had a bad matchup probably, and I don't know what that game did to make you do. Like when I look back to the Portland State win we had, I think like sure I got to play 4 of the 5 offensive line positions in that game, but did I get a lot better? No, in fact I didn't really put like great tape out there because of the level of the opponent, so it wasn't really helping me that much, except just showing people the same reps I was getting in practice and being versatile. But otherwise, it's like, yeah, we're scoring 69 points. That's fun. So I think that's a big misnomer. It's going to be all about getting the win. And if the season goes right, we won't look back on these first frustrating weeks the same way. We'll look like and be thankful that we had these struggles early, I think, because it takes a lot for a team to learn how to maneuver in those close game situations and pull it out in the end. In terms of deficiencies, I see obviously everybody's always asking me, and I'm trying to dial it up as much as I can on my podcast, Once a Duck, that, yeah, there's some offensive line issues. And for me, it's really, really hard to watch any team, let alone the Ducks, when you give up a sack that wasn't necessary.
Second play of the game.
Well, not just that, but just having in the first two games already eclipsing, what the season totals for the past 2 years. So, like 4 sacks in the first half is unacceptable. And that's just, I mean, I know Coach Graywood, our offensive line coach back in my day, he'd have our asses rolling all Monday before practice, probably, if we gave up 4 sacks and a half, man. Um, I remember one of the hardest, like, chewing outs we got after that big Tennessee win because the offensive line did not play very well. And I remember him rolling the tape and being like, I know we got to win. You guys want to celebrate. But listen, if we play like this, and every time he showed quarterback pressure, kept saying, quarterback's not going to make it that bleeping season, boys. Click, play it again. Quarterback's not going to make it fucking season, boys. And just drilled it into us. And it's like, that's kind of what we need right now. We need somebody to say, guys, we can't be letting the quarterback get hit like this, regardless if it's a miscommunication on his part, the back's part, if it's a 6-man protection or whatever. It has to be taken care of up front. Somebody needs to establish, here's who we're blocking, and quarterback has to take care of everything else. But if the offensive line takes care of primarily the 4 down men up front, and the most dangerous backer, or 3 down, 2 most dangerous backers, you're usually going to be okay. But you have to have everyone set on the same set of rules and play with the same level of aggression and trust. That's one of the hardest things, is seeing us huddle so much and then get up to the line with the play clock running down. I'm not sure how much time we're sitting there looking prepared at the defense, understanding, all right, maybe here's where the blitz is coming. Here's where the pressure is. Because when you get the play call right there in the huddle and you turn around and the play clock's running down, all right, you got 10, 9, 8. You're rushing the standard things you have to look for as an offensive lineman. Check the safety alignment. Number one, are we 2 high safeties, or is there an imbalance? If so, there's an imbalance. Is it to the tight end's end or away from it? Are they coming strong side or not? And then immediately you can start telling some different things. All right, maybe are the corners pressed up, or are they backed way off? You have to analyze these things in a couple seconds, and these things all give you little clues to what you're going to see from the defense. Then you have to make your call to communicate with, usually between the tackles and centers, telling the guard what to do, because they're not in a position to see. So that's always been at least our protocols. And to master that, you have to have chemistry. And, it's really difficult when you have injuries or just different rotations that you're trying to find. And hopefully once we get that secured, I have confidence that we have the athletes. It's definitely not a matter of talent. It's a matter of cohesion and 5 guys playing as one. It's how you got to get that fist. If you just go out there with 5 weak fingers all doing the same thing, you got an awful slimy bitch slap. But you go out there full fist, you're going to punch it in, and that's what the offensive line needs to start doing, especially in these short yardage 3rd and 4th down scenarios. That's where we really need to improve. And even in the play calling, it feels like we don't trust the offensive line as much as we should.
Yeah, and do you think some of it could be because of the difference? Because, I mean, a lot of this offensive line has been playing together for a couple years now, so they're kind of already built. And now they're used to protecting the right side, and now they've got to turn everything around and protect the left side.
Yeah, I think I don't think in general that's a major factor in terms of like pocket structure, and sometimes more in like play action and which way you're going to roll a quarterback. That'll influence play calling more, but in terms of blocking schemes, I don't think so. I think it's just obviously the void at center, losing Jackson Powers Johnson, is huge. As much as Johnny and Connerly have the experience from last year, obviously Harper. That center spot is always been the most important key in the offensive line cog at Oregon. And we've had a great from Anoka Lucas to Max Unger to Jordan Holmes to Horonis Grasu, uh, Jake Breland. I'm going to forget somebody there. We got Forsyth and then Jackson Powers Johnson. I think I got most of them now. But yeah, we've had a great tradition of having great centers at Oregon. And when we had injuries at that position or had issues, we've had TCU games. And I never want to see another TCU game.
Another game. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Another one.
Well, that's what we said too. Is I was wondering. I was like, I don't know how we'll. I mean, it seems like it wouldn't be too complicated, but it's probably much more complex, obviously, for just the viewer to go, hey, a right-handed quarterback to a left-handed quarterback. And something that was brought up in multiple things that I've watched is if you watch Oregon, for some reason, whatever it is, maybe they feel stronger on that side of the line. Most of his passes are to the left. And so the defense can kind of go, oh, he's going to throw to the left again. Okay. Like the left side of the field, like I don't know
There's a
what
lot.
that is.
There's a lot of factors that go into that, especially in college with field position where the hash marks are. So generally, with the wider hash marks, you are trying to play to the shorter side of the field most of the time, right? Or at least use that advantageously, because you really don't have to have the arm strength necessarily that you do in the NFL for certain throws. So I know in terms of quarterback play, that's a huge thing, and naturally, it's just it's very unnatural for people to see a left-handed thrower. So I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, we seems like we're throwing it so much more to the left now. But I mean, and then I watched the Broncos game and I this weekend, and I think, well, you could say the same damn thing for Bo Nix is going and scrambling to his right too damn much. So except for his running touchdown, it was like, all right, well, yeah, they're booting him out there because it's comfortable. It's where his shoulders need to be positioned so he doesn't have to turn back and throw across his body. There's just certain things in scheming like that. But particularly in pass protection in general, man, I mean, it's I don't think it's necessarily. We just got to be more firm at contact and recognize, especially delayed blitzes better. We've had a lot of trouble passing off delayed blitzes, twists, games up front. It seems like we haven't, and then that's another thing. It's like cohesion. When I played with Mark Asper, who we had on my podcast last week, it's like we got to a point where we really didn't have to communicate very much. So we'd spend most of our time kind of joking around and giving fake calls and messing with the defensive linemen. And, because we both knew, all right, well, if they're going to twist here, he's going to line up a little wider, closer to me. I'm going to have my inside hand up. And as soon as it happens, Mark's going to just punch him in the chest. I'm going to take over and expect the, defense to loop around. We just had that. We'll see the same thing because we've seen it so many times in practice. And that's been a huge problem is obviously with the Bedford injury, we're kind of throwing rotations out there that probably haven't had the same amount of reps together.
Yeah, and what's weird with the Bedford injury is you've seen him practice in the last 2 weeks, and you're like, why isn't he out there? And I get that it's a longer season possibility. You can play 16, 17 games versus 12. And so I kind of think maybe that's part of what Dan Lanning's doing is like, let's just hold him out as long as we have to until we absolutely need him. But after the last 2 weeks, it'd be like, if it was me, it'd be like, you're in.
I mean, I'm telling you this about day-to-day injuries. I've been day-to-day for like 13 years now, and it's not fun, man. Whatever it is, you got to trust whatever the doctors say. And if you go out there and doctors and trainers ask you to perform something to show that you have the durability to not sustain a worse injury, or they're always the ones that are going to guide you. So I know I've had injuries I've played through and injuries I couldn't play through. And you always have to trust. And Oregon has one of the best medical and training staffs. And a lot of those same guys that were out there treating me are still out there on the sidelines. And love saying shout out to Chief and Travis and all those guys that you get to see back there that you're like, oh yeah, they're still there because they're damn good at the job, you know?
Yeah, and it's like Noah said, you know, during the We're Out West videos when he was talking about his, you know, coming back off the, you know, the big knee injury he had last year.
Yeah.
And saying how, you know, at one point at the beginning, he thought that was it. His career was done. And those guys that you just mentioned are some of the ones that he said convinced him that he could come back from this and he can come back better and stronger. And, you know, and we saw what he did last week. I mean,
yeah, I know, and my injuries were pretty minor in terms of like the only surgery I ever had to have was getting my ankle scoped after my redshirt year because I had it rolled up on in a practice. I think probably like the week after fall camp and or maybe the last week of fall camp, and it swole up. I you know I didn't feel like I was a priority for treatment, so I wasn't trying to go bug the trainers. I was just trying to do the normal ice and whatever, go home and take the time off I needed. But I wasn't really doing like the physical therapy and getting the treatment I needed because I always felt like, oh man, I don't want to take away from the starters, the guys actually playing. And it really took me like breaking that habit and figuring it out. But unfortunately, that whole season, I had built up so much scar tissue that my ankle flexibility just wasn't the same that it was before, to a point that if I was going to go play in a left-handed stance, I couldn't get that heel quite on the ground. And it was very uncomfortable. So ended up having to get it scoped that winter. And I still remember thinking like, after it was scoped for a couple days, it was so miserable. I was like, I don't understand how I'm supposed to get it, you know, trying to get through the PT and stuff. And I'm like, this is nothing. Like if I tore a knee or something, like I'm like, oh man. But then when you go and you actually spend the time and you realize what great people they are and they're fun to be around. I hate saying that, but it was always, they made it fun to be at treatment. They always made it funny. You know, they always had like Dan Patrick on the treatment centers in the morning, and you know, you were able to get a couple laughs in even when you were really dealing with some like pain or, you know, just whatever you were working through. Maybe sometimes not, you know, you're past the pain, but you just got to go and get your body right. And once I started figuring that out and really taking care of my body, you know, it made every other issue from that point on a lot easier to deal with. And getting to know and have relationships with those people is huge because they've got to be the ones massaging your big ugly ass.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you want to spaz, yeah, Nick too, because of course, I mean, he hates the Beavers. What do you think of this weekend as the rivalry continues? Luckily,
Yeah.
as we talk with Yogi, at least they got it done, got it scheduled, even though it's the third week of the season.
Yeah, isn't that weird? And the first time since 1933 that both teams will show up undefeated due to that little scheduling
Oh wow, yeah.
work. Yeah. So yeah, a little piece of information I picked up from my podcast this week. I still haven't figured out what my prediction is going to be yet. I got to hit the drawing board and do some calculus and algebra and all those important things, some geometry maybe. But I'm most interested to see how we respond on the road and if that's what the kind of kick in the ass we need. Because let's just say if there's any environment that will do it, it's definitely Oregon State. You roll up to there, you've got the locker rooms that you got to walk all the way across the way for, and you've got all the fans there talking shit, and you kind of look around driving in, you're like, why? What do they think they have to talk shit about here? That's always how that felt, and it always did get me a little bit extra fired up and pissed off when I was up there. So maybe that's kind of what we need to get out of the confines of home, and we're definitely going to need to get ready for some really, really tough environments on the road going into the Big Ten season. So this is perfect tune-up opportunity, I think, you know, to really understand how this team is prepared to go on the road, and even if it's just up the street, taking the mentality of being the road team. I'm interested to see how we handle that, because you have the mishaps that you do with a fumble or a misnap on the road. It is a lot harder to recover from that on the road, especially with a rival, than it is at home in Autzen Stadium.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we say. We
Yeah,
say every
before,
time. It's
like,
rivalry games. You
yeah.
never know what can happen. Some of the weirdest things happen in rivalry games, no matter how good one team is compared to the other. Even it's still just like.
It's the great neutralizer, man. Sometimes it changes the motivation week to week, and I'm hoping that it works in our favor this week, that Dan Lanning can find something, especially with going on the road, just to get it going, man, because you've seen the explosive plays. We've got the ability, and this is, I'm the most excited I've been for some of our special teams unit plays in a while. And then we've just got these moments that we need to clean up that are penalties, sacks that don't need to be given up, and then runs that are just stalled. And I think, especially this week, it's the week to throw a lot more at the chalkboard to see how we can get it done, and to really put the faith in our playmakers' hands. And hopefully, I believe the O-line will get everything figured out up front, because if you don't, Oregon State will make it tough for you all day. And that defense definitely is probably watching this tape right now this week and just kind of can't wait to throw some delayed blitzes, some twists, maybe some stunts, and see if we can get them jump off sides and make the play easy for us. But it's going to be all up to Coach Terry and that offensive line group up there. And me, I'm never going to not have faith in those guys, because I always believe Oregon Ducks offensive line is core of the team, and it falls upon us whether we get it done or not. And I always believe we have the talent and ability to get it done, because I looked at the talent and ability around me back in the day and wasn't quite sure even then, and then saw what we were able to do with our commitment. And I look at the talent now and I'm like, there's no excuses, guys. No excuses, because a lot more talented offensive line room in terms of physicality, presence, speed, all everything everybody evaluates. You got a lot more stars in that room than we had. But at the end of the day, it's all about how hard are you willing to play for the guy next to you. And we need to find out that right combination of guys that play the most and the hardest for each other.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that I almost feel like, when you said, putting in those extra plays or extra level of,
Oh yeah,
I almost feel like, I've been telling people for the last couple of weeks, look, guys, we've only Jaden Lamar's had one carry. We haven't even seen Jay Harris touch the field. Gary Bryant hasn't touched the field. Jurian Dickey's barely touched the field. Even Kyle Casper has only been in for a handful of plays both games. We haven't even, it's almost like they're just trying to slow roll it and then Big Ten hit it hard. It almost
and then
that feel.
Yeah, I think that's one thing in personnel that you can definitely see. But I think even in terms of schemes, I loved hearing the analyst the week one. As soon as we come out with a fullback, everybody loses their minds, and so I think we put a lot of interesting things on tape you don't expect from Oregon. And I think that's the thing a lot of fans maybe don't understand about really good run offenses in college football. You have an install package each week for each team that you think you're going to have. In fall camp, you introduce obviously your main set of plays, but week to week, you might just say, hey, power doesn't look good this week. You guys, we'll throw it out. Maybe if it's a halftime adjustment, we bring it back. But here's the play set we're going in with this week. And there were times that we played some teams and we're like, all right, it's going to be a heavy dose of just zone. And there are some teams, it's like, all right, we have a couple opportunities to make some mismatches. And particularly, I feel like the Halloween USC game, I feel like, man, we were pulling every play, whether it was power or it was, our horn sweep to the outside, kind of a pick and pull scheme. It was just throwing off the linebackers so bad at USC that, hey, we'll let those athletic guys run to the sideline and then cut right up past them. So a bunch of those times, like it's just week to week, that offensive coordinator deciding, all right, what are we scheming for this week situationally, and using that practice time in the most resourceful way. And then you get into the game and you hope it translates. If it doesn't, you got to go back to the drawing board and see what the defenses are doing. And that's the most important thing is we got to start taking what defenses are giving us instead of letting what the defense is doing dictate what we do.
Yeah.
That's something, I mean, and looking with like Oregon State, right now the strength of that team is a defense. The offense is not great. I mean, they did just shut. I mean, again, they've only played Idaho State, but then they played on the road at the Aztecs. And they shut out the Aztecs.
Yep.
So the defense is, I would say, pretty decent. I don't know compared to like playing Idaho, who's a lot better than Idaho State, and Boise's a lot better than the Aztecs.
Yeah.
But we gave up 34 points to Boise State, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, you've got a defensive head coach too. And I think that's something that we kind of may not keep in mind as much, that we also have a defensive minded head coach. So I think that's, sometimes they give a lot of oversight of the offense over to the offensive coordinator, vice versa if you have a really offensive focused head coach. So I definitely think Coach Bray's kind of tactics are definitely to just not make mistakes on offense. Let the other team make the mistakes and have a great defense that capitalizes on those mistakes. And that's Oregon State teams I played always were like that. But, Mike Riley could always find himself a quarterback and it feels like Jonathan Smith was much more an offensive guy that was trying to get that defense there. So it's kind of a culture shift for the Beavers that they're still adapting to. And I think once they play a caliber of team like us, hopefully it exposes a lot on their defense that they haven't seen this year.
Yeah, exactly. Surprised you haven't hit Chip up for a pair of tickets to the Ohio State game. Hey, Coach.
I mean, he's definitely not the contact there for that. But yeah, for me, man, it's just more travel. The travel's harder than getting the ticket. That's for sure. I know they've been really good about helping the alumni out and finding their spots. So when I'm able to get there, tickets again, I've got so many damn Duck friends that. In fact, I've had people offering me tickets the past couple of weeks, and I've been like, guys, I'm booked hosting comedy stuff and doing comedy shows I'm producing. Like, I'd be there if I could, man. It's not like I'm not too cheap to afford an Idaho standing room only ticket. That's for sure. But it's just tough. I've got a lot booked, and the weekends I am free, I am gonna try and get down, and I've already got people to back me up at hosting the Shanghai room on the Saturdays I need them. So it'll be just a matter of time. And then, obviously the Illinois game, but if I can sneak the Ohio State game, I might.
That's that feels like a long ways away, but it's not that far away.
No, I wish it felt long. It felt a long ways a couple weeks ago. Now it feels like, oh man, that's coming soon. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Another thing, are you still doing Nike stuff? Are you still working at Nike or?
I've never worked at Nike. I've never. I worked at Xbox for from 2013 to 2016. I'm currently with Amazon now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is on another subject which you are very familiar with because I know you'll be there Friday night.
Yeah.
We're I don't know if you saw, we're doing a Pacific Northwest Expo in February, and we've already got a few legends coming in, including Rikishi, Bushwhacker Luke, Lenny Denton, Fidel Sierra, some Northwest legends, and we're trying to work on Scott Norton and a few others, but we're looking for sponsors.
Yeah. Definitely, man. I mean, that's awesome, dude. Rikishi, in fact, I was just finding the last time I went to SmackDown at what was now Climate Pledge, what was Key Arena back in 2003, I found a ticket where Brock Lesnar faced Rikishi on the card, and Rikishi gave Paul Heyman the stink face. there in Seattle. I still remember that was
Nice.
all-timer break, an all-time card. I think the main event that night was The Rock when he was WWE champion, maybe that was right, WWE WF transition, but it was the now redacted Chris Benoit challenging The Rock for the title. That was whoa for 13, 12-year-old me. That was just holy shit.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, this Friday SmackDown in Seattle is going to be like what's up?
So we're looking for sponsors. If you know anywhere to reach out for sponsors,
I'll reach it. I'll definitely be asking around. I know at least a couple businesses that I have good relationships with comedy for sure.
I'll send you the flyer.
Perfect. I know a couple breweries that might be interested.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He tried to ask me that earlier. I'm like, Spaz, I'm in the wrong business for that type of sponsorship. Like, totally wrong type of business.
He does haunted houses.
No, it's the guy's hiring me to take him to the Paris catacombs as a tour guide in the illegal parts. That's not a sponsor, Spaz.
No, I know.
Spaz, you and I are tied this season already, too. By the way.
Oh, did you jury rig the score predictions last week?
No, you had 20. You were off by 20. I was off by 19.
Oh,
I counted it up earlier. I was like, oh yeah, all right, that's right. I forgot. I forgot to ask Yogi. Yeah, he wasn't going to give us a score prediction.
No, I don't think he can.
I know, and Nick's already off the board. He's like, nah, I got to go do calculus and weak, boring stuff.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know when I have it figured out. I just don't want to say the wrong thing on my podcast either.
Well, that's true. When you just said that, I was like, I haven't even really thought about this either. To be honest, I will be fully honest. The only thing I can think of is I'm looking at their points per game and their opponent's point per game, then realizing the competition. Ooh, Spaz, I think you went first last week, so I'll be nice. I'll go. 34-20.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't thought about this, to be honest.
I think this is the week that Oregon finally puts everything together, and I'm hoping that Bedford is in its center this week. That'll make it even.
I think he'd be at guard. I think he'd be at guard, and they'd put Poncho.
Yeah, they'd put Poncho back. They would put Poncho back.
But still, having him there, I think, is going to make a big difference on our O-line. And I think we finally put everything together this week. 41-17.
All right, guys. I did some quick. I didn't do the full math, but I
it's just like it's our first guest pick of the season.
I got my Etch sketch here. I got it down. I think I got the math right. If we have 0 sacks and 0 penalties on the offensive line, I got us winning 61-0. Go Ducks!
Oh shit!
Wow. Well, that I can tell who lost this week for sure. And Spaz, you might have also gone overconfident because remember, again, if they keep Bedford out, it's because we have a bye week after this, so they might be holding him out for the Big Ten season.
UCLA season opener, yeah.
You can't change your score now. It sucks to be you.
I'm confident.
That's fine. Again, last season, how many games did I lose by like literally 1 to 2 points?
Yeah,
like
you
4
lost
or 5 of them.
You're turning that around this year.
Killing me. Well, there's only 2 of us picking them technically, in general, not 4 of us now. So, I think the question of the day that a lot of people want to know, and Nick has the inside scoop, and he can't back out of this. How many actual people run the Duck mascot, and are they all jacked?
Ooh. Yeah, I imagine there's well, at least from what I do understand, that there usually are at least two, because if you didn't swap that out at halftime, that would be pretty miserable. But especially imagine with like so much pregame stuff they do now, man. I don't know. I would always have it three people capable of it at least, and then you can always tell there's one that's more of the push up centric guy. They're going to have him in the second half, but you usually get the more stunt capable duck in the pregame or the first couple quarters there. But
the crowd surfing duck.
crowd surfing duck, yeah. I think that's it's a good bet. But for the kids out there, guys, it's still that's just the duck. There's not a person in there. That's just the duck. Okay.
I'm sorry, I ruined some kid's
If
childhood.
you're ever okay, this is gonna go a little bit left field.
Oh God.
All right, guys, I got like two more questions for you, then I got to get
All right.
out of here.
There you go.
Nick, have you ever had sexual relations with the duck?
Wow.
No, but there is this Corvallis story about sheep that I know about that probably a little more relevant to this week, but yeah, we won't go there. No, I don't encourage any farm animals, sexual relations, or anything like that. Keep the sheep and ducks safe, my friends. Keep them safe.
That definitely was left field, Spaz. Jeez, I thought we were behaving today.
Keep them away from Oregon State fans and Spaz.
Hey, Nick, thanks for coming on, man. I know we've been trying to hook up and do this for a while, and glad we were able to.
Now, you've been the one trying to hook up with ducks, apparently. So let's be careful with our language there. All right, guys. One more question though. I can't end on that one.
I had one, but now this question is weak compared to that. I don't even think it wouldn't even be. It would be nothing. So I can't even end on that one. I think that's a great. What do you got, Spaz? What do you got? He has something rolling in his brain.
I don't know. I got nothing, man. I did
all right.
Then for Nick, your favorite Oregon coach from when you started. You were under Bellotti. You had Chip. Then we had Helfrich. Then we had obviously Taggart for a year, Mario, and now Lanning. Obviously, personal bias probably is going to be a little Bellotti, Chip, because you played under him. But best coach that you think Oregon has since the end of Bellotti's term through Dan Lanning.
Does it have to be a head coach?
No. You can pick a position coach, anything like that.
James Radcliffe, best damn strength conditioning coach in Oregon history, was there for 35-ish years. Not just running the Oregon football conditioning, but every damn conditioning program in the summer. And he would run with the athletes. Guy was a phenom of a human being in terms of physical strength, prowess, and also personality. And the guy was a huge mentor to me and many, many other Ducks, and someone I will always look up to above and beyond any other coach I've ever had. And for being one of the smallest guys on the field, people knew because he stood out. And before every game, he came up and he just had a special interaction with every single person individually, and came and touched you on the heart. And because he kind of knew, like many good strength conditioning coaches kind of tapped into, when you really know what drives and motivates your players, you really build a significant connection with them, and getting to go see them take everything that you put in that off season that you spend with them. It obviously means a lot to them, and Coach Radcliffe had a very special way of showing that to you. And one of the most hard-ass coaches I ever had, but damn, it was rewarding when you got his respect. So that was the most easy answer for me. Love Chip, love Coach Bellotti. But even when I was coming into the program, like a huge reason I became an Oregon Duck is what other players were saying about Coach Rad and just the demeanor he had about him. And he's, like the godfather of plyometrics. You can go buy his book on Amazon right now. And those same principles were the same things he trained us with a lot and built upon, and that now athletes now in almost every single speed and conditioning program are using something that he either brought to the forefront or elevated, and that's huge for the brand of Oregon football and what we've been able to do in terms of playing fast, hard, and being able to completely blow out certain people in athletic moments that just put you right there on the highlights, the highlight reel, the top 10 Sports Center plays. He's got to be responsible for a ton of them in Oregon sports history.
I'm telling Aliotti you didn't pick him.
Hey, man, Coach Al knows I'll always be battling against him, man. He was always trying to. I think he knew I was the weak point, so he was always trying to come after me. But no, I love Coach Al, and he's definitely up there, man. And I think he would hear my sentiments about Coach Rad and probably echo that quite a bit, because a lot of the way he worked some of those linebackers, they wouldn't last for him without Coach Rad. They would have lasted like Coach Aliotti's voice did during fall camp.
During the season, even you'd be seen screaming from the box, and you'd be like, "Oh, it's done." It must be so loud in there.
Oh well, not only that, man. During fall camps, right? Every coach kind of, in our days, with the team meetings, would have a night that was like they get to talk about something that's important to them. And God, you were always hoping, like, can we get Coach Al out of the way the first couple of nights? Because by day 2 or 3 of camp, like, gentlemen, I just want to talk to you guys today. Yeah, we just it'd be hard. Like, God damn it, it's hard to listen to and not laugh. Like, guy's already lost his voice. It's day 3. We aren't even in pads yet, Coach.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Well, yeah.
Plug your show, any of your social media.
Yeah. All right.
Jackson did earlier too, but I want to pull it up for you. But definitely do Jackson. He's our guy. He's the link master.
Love it. Love it, guys.
Do plug your show. Plug your show. Tell them what it's about.
Yeah. You can follow the Once a Duck podcast. All the platforms we're on. You can search by Once a Duck. YouTube is the best way to watch us. But me and my host Sam Schmidt. He's been a tremendous asset. Helps host, edits everything, and man, it's just been really fun to cover the Ducks over the years. You can find that Twitter, Instagram, Threads at Once a Duck. You can find me at Nick R. Cody for all your sports takes and comedy, and then Tapped Out Comedy for my individually produced shows that I run every single month here in Linwood, Washington. Hopefully coming on tour soon. I would love to. I've been talking about getting a couple people together to do a West Coast tour, a couple other comedians I've met along the way, but we've had plans before that got, thrown away, shifted. Gonna have to come back to it soon, but you can always tune into me on all the socials at Nick R. Cody to find out when those are going to be happening.
Awesome. Hope that gets going for you. That'd be cool.
Definitely, guys. All right. Thanks, guys. Get back. I'm gonna get back to it here, and glad to just get the little bit of time with you. Bummer I didn't get to say hi to Yogi, but seems like you guys had an awesome show. Keep up the good work.
No,
thanks,
thank
Nick.
you very much.
See you soon. Let me know if you make Michigan State.
Yeah, definitely. Take it easy and go Ducks.
All right, man. Go Ducks.
Oh, technical difficulties. I'll be nice. I'll be nice. Nick Cody, everyone. Covered a lot of topics, including your barnyard stuff. It's fast. Way to end that show. Way to go. I thought we were behaving with Yogi. I think primarily. I think that was what we were trying to do. Behave with Yogi. Mission accomplished.
Oh, that was a perfect ending. I had to go there just based off my experience at the spring game with Nick and a few others, and had a great time. And I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect. He's not even going to see this one coming.
That's why I felt stupid asking the other question. I was like, how do I top that? How do I top that? Like, no way I can do it. All right. Well, we got score predictions on. We got to talk insightfulness to Yogi, and then we got to just hang out and talk ball. It's been a good show.
Yeah.
We've been going for an hour and 35 minutes.
Yeah, perfect.
Longest one yet.
And if you didn't get a chance to see the show live or hear it, it's on all our platforms. You'll be able to. It'll be up, and you'll be able to watch the replay. Give us your thoughts, like, subscribe, comments.
I need to start saying that at the beginning of the show, and I always forget.
Yeah, I know.
I always forget. Everything's running through my mind when we start going live, and I'm like, do this, and we go live. I'm like, sizzle, just
yeah,
sizzle. Well, it was cool having Yogi on. Maybe eventually in the off season when he's not so busy, maybe we'll be able to talk ball a little off topic. But obviously he's quite busy. Nick, appreciate you coming on. Spaz, as always. Everyone in the chat. Jackson, the super chat, obviously helps a lot.
5 o'clock uniform drop.
Oh, the uni drop. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, then we better get the hell out of here and talk.
That little teaser about the Big Ten home opener. Special jersey is apparently coming out for the Big Ten opener. Which one is it gonna be?
Oh yeah, he said that. I was like, ooh. Damn it! Again, I might miss that game almost completely. We'll work out that. We'll work out the situation with that scheduling.
Yep.
So everyone, check out the uni drop in 20 minutes or about 19 minutes now. So we'll definitely be watching that. Spaz, your final thoughts for Oregon State this weekend?
I just think that I think Oregon will be able to put everything together this week, and I think we might have our actual easy game of the non-con schedule might become a fairly easy game this week. I just don't see Oregon State competing in the trenches and things as well with this team they got this year. They were just decimated by so much. And Oregon is just far out handles them in the trenches, and they have much more depth and alignment. And I just think this should be a fun week.
I don't think it'll be an issue. I think there will be some struggles at the beginning, but hopefully whatever alignment they pick with the O-line, whatever 5 guys they pick is like the core group, they finally figured it out. Whether Bedford's back or not, at least they figured out a stable group for this game where we're not sitting here. I'm not sitting getting 50 messages from you people panicking the entire game. I didn't even message. I was stressed so much last week. Like, literally, I was like, this team is going to give me a heart attack. I'm going to age 10 years this season at this rate.
Yeah.
But you know what? Every team needs those games. Those wake up games.
Like I said last week, ask Washington about that, last year.
Arizona State game. 15
they
days
had
or whatever.
So many games that were like down to the wire.
Yeah. Oh, Michigan had some too, and they won it all. Oregon had the Texas Tech one where they were down like 13 points. Came back, so every team is going to have these. It shouldn't be to this competition right now. That's kind of the difference a little bit, but fair point with Washington and Arizona State, because Arizona State was awful last year. So fair point.
And our, it's different now. You'd rather get those, in my opinion, you'd rather get those games out of the way now. That by the time you get to Ohio State, everything's lined up. You're ready to roll.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot going on with the team. You just have to trust the staff and know that they are doing everything they can to fix the problem, whatever it may be, or find the solution to it, whatever it is, and they'll do it. And yeah. Well then, everyone, let's leave it at that, and make sure to, again, like you said, like and subscribe, and check us out here as we will be live for the post game following the Beavers game this weekend on Saturday, unless we lose, and then Spaz won't be here.
7:30. Your
Is
time?
that what time it is? I haven't even looked at what time it is. To be honest, I haven't even
West
looked.
Coast game.
Oh, okay.
3:30.
I haven't even looked that far ahead, to be honest. So do check out the post game, and then we'll be back next week, hopefully with another guest, and we will be talking about how Oregon will kill the bye week.
Yep.
I hope. If you lose a bye week, your season is over.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone. I gotta go put the potatoes in the oven for baked potatoes and steak night tonight. So I got shit to do. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Go Ducks. Always.
See you Saturday.
Go Ducks.